I'd like to take a moment and thank the committee, whoever put this on. I feel privileged to be here. This is an awesome retreat. We put on retreats in Bend, and I'm learning a lot from you guys how to put on a really good retreat, and I want to thank you. I want to take a moment. When you come to these meetings, you never know when you might hear something that will save your life. Or you never know when you might hear something that might make you stop procrastinating about what you should do about your program of recovery. My friend Ronnie here, he's my best friend. We've been clean together for 34 years. He got clean 3 months ahead of me. And when I came to Narcotics Anonymous, I met him. And we've been very best friends ever since. He comes up and visits me all the time. I lived in San Diego I moved up here about 14 years ago, and otherwise we were neighbors. I'd work on his car and do all kinds of stuff, and it's like, I love this guy dearly. One time, I went to the coast and heard him speak, and when I was just saying about procrastinating about what you're doing about your program, the 5 things I always talk about, I was only doing one of them. I was going to meetings. That's it. I didn't have a sponsor. I wasn't working steps. I wasn't helping others. I wasn't involved in service. And I went and heard him speak. I don't know what the hell he said, but it was like plugging my finger into in a light socket again. And all the stuff that I learned my first 15 years came back into my heart. And I haven't stopped since. And I love you, Ronnie, and here's Ronnie.
Wow, all right. Hey guys, my name is Ron, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. Ain't it good to be clean? Huh? Ain't it good to be clean? Man, what a blessing, what a privilege, what a gift. I call recovery a gift. Because most of us that have this disease will never even make it to a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous. So this is really a privilege for me to be asked to come here and to share a little bit about myself and how I got to recovery and what my life has been like in recovery. And it's just also like so special to be with my best friend Eddie, who, like he said, we've known each other 34 years, all based in recovery in Narcotics Anonymous. That was the foundation that brought us together to begin with, and that is the tie that really binds us together as 2 addicts seeking a different way to live. So it's really nice to be able to be here and spend some time with Eddie also, and I'm just amazed yesterday how many new people were here. I was like blown away. I mean, I had conversations with John today, and Scott and I talked for a long time. Anthony, where's Anthony? Anthony, these guys are all under a year clean. And it's just, for a guy like me, it's what gives me meaning and purpose in my life is the desire that God has given me to extend my hand to the addict who still suffers. We say that this is a spiritual program of action and prayer. That's what it says in our basic text. And what I have found in my recovery is that the most spiritual thing that I can do is exactly what your logo for this event is, the therapeutic value. It says in the basic text, this is pretty profound, that the therapeutic value of one addict helping another addict is without parallel. So what that tells me is that there is nothing that I can do in recovery that will parallel my willingness to extend my hand to you or ask you for help. That's the most spiritual thing I can do here. If I'm going to meetings and I say I'm involved in recovery and I'm not willing to offer you help, or I'm not humble enough to ask for help, I'm missing probably the most important thing I can do on a spiritual basis in this program. So this is really, for my recovery, it's wonderful when I'm asked to come somewhere and to share, and especially if there's a lot of new guys, because I love newcomers. You know, I was a newcomer. Actually, my first 2 years going to Narcotics Anonymous, I went loaded. So I was like a perpetual newcomer for 2 years. And you know what, before I start, if you read the basic text, in the introduction, in the beginning of the basic text, there's a hologram of our service symbol. The medallion that you see, you know, passed around, and that hologram is like 3D. And it goes up to these points that lead to freedom: God, self, service, society. And they all extend up to freedom. But the base of our program, something I don't really hear about much in meetings, is something called goodwill. So in the spirit of goodwill, would everybody here tonight who's in their first year of recovery, would you guys all stand up? I want to see who's in their first year. Wow, welcome to Narcotics Anonymous. Yeah, nice. Wow. Welcome to Narcotics Anonymous. And please, keep coming back, no matter what. That's what they told me when I came to the rooms of NA in 1981. I was 31 years old. I was on the methadone program again, and I was starting to thinking about taking my own life at 31 years old. Life was getting difficult for me. My addiction had beat me down since I was a young man. I mean, I used to always say that, well, my addiction started. Oh, look at this, the peanut gallery. I didn't even see these guys. Check it out, up in the back. But, you know, I used to say, well, I started using when I was 13 because my first experience getting high was at 13 years old drinking wine. I was with a bunch of my buddies. But I really think back, and when I was 9 years old, I had my first cigarette. So really my using started at 9 years old. And the reason I say that is because I'll never forget what happened to me. We were 9 years old, third grade. It doesn't even sound right to me. When I see a 9-year-old kid, I said, am I sure that happened, you know? But we were playing Army in the woods by my house. And we had our little Tommy guns, you know, and we used, in the 50s, because I'm old, when I was young, they had all these shows on television like Sergeant Rock, you know, and, you know, he'd be shooting the Germans with a big cigar in his mouth, and, take that, you know, and so as a kid, that looked really cool to me, you know what I mean? So here we are, we're playing Army, and my friend, God rest his soul, because he died from addiction, Andy Jingaleski came up with 3 Salems that he stole from his father. And he said, Ronnie, look what I got, man. I got matches, I got 3 cigarettes. And I remember the way I thought. And I thought to myself, wow, this is cool. This is like television. I mean, this is really neat playing Army here in the woods with my friends. But man, it's going to be so much cooler when I fire up a cigarette and stick it in my mouth. So the stage was set at 9 years old for something outside of myself to change the way I felt about myself and about the world around me. Now, I had no idea at 9 years old that someday I was going to suffer from the horrors of drug addiction, but as time progressed, that's what happened. And I grew up, like I said, in the 50s and in the 60s. You know, God willing, if I live in 3 weeks, I'll be 68 years old. So, you know, as a kid, it was in the 50s, and then the 60s, everybody grew their hair long. Everybody turned into hippies. You know, we went from greasers. We used to call them greasers, you know, guys that, you know, like tough guys, you know, high roll collar. You probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But, you know, we were slick greasers. And then all of a sudden we all graduated high school. And the 60s was on. And all of a sudden everybody's growing their hair. So like within a year of graduating high school, my hair was down to here. I had an Eisenhower coat with an upside-down flag on the back, you know, big Fu Manchu mustache, and I was getting high like all my friends. And I remember when I was young, like 17, 18 years old, you know, we did everything. You know, it was like rock and roll day. I mean, it actually was an incredible time to grow up. There was a place in New York City. I grew up in New Jersey, and there was a place in New York City called the Fillmore East. And every weekend there'd be rock bands there. And I mean, I saw Hendrix. I could probably sit down and write like 50 different major stars that I saw. And it used to be like $12 a ticket to go there on the weekends in a real small theater. And so we grew up at this time, and we were getting high, we were dropping acid, we were smoking weed, we were snorting speed, crystal meth that would just, oh my God, I don't know what you guys do now with meth, but this was made like by chemists, like one match head, and you were like gone, your whole mouth would ache. I mean, just pure stuff. So we were doing all this stuff, and life was fun. Life was fun, and I remember how we all used to pride ourselves at saying, no, we're free. Look at us. We can grow our hair long. Nobody can tell us what to do. We're all going to wind up in Vietnam and die anyhow, so screw it. We'll do whatever we want. We're living in freedom. Freedom. And none of us ever dreamed the bondage that was going to be upon us in our lives. We went from this state of freedom. I'll never forget being 20 years old, standing in a methadone line in Elizabeth, New Jersey at 6:30 in the morning, and the sun is just coming up. And I don't know if anybody's ever been on methadone. When you go to get your juice early, man, it's still not even daylight yet. You can see the little light on through the door. They're ready for you. And there's a little line of people that got to go to work. And the only way they're going to work is if they get their issue, right? So I remember standing in that line at 20 years old going, something is wrong with me. And knowing that there was something wrong with me. What has happened to me? Where's the kid that was having fun? Where's the kid that was going to rock shows and said we're free and hanging out with my buddies and getting high was fun? And I got to come here just so I can get to work? And I knew in my mind that there was something seriously wrong. And what my obsession became was, how am I going to manage my addiction? I was wise enough to know I had a big problem, and that if it kept going the way it was, things were going to get even worse than they were. And so my obsession became, how was I going to stay out of jail? How was I going to stay from being homeless? How am I going to stay from getting busted? How am I going to keep a job? How am I going to get laid once in a blue moon? And all these things that, to live life on life's terms with any kind of dignity, a human being wants, right? So that became my obsession. But as we know, if you have the disease of addiction, it progresses over time. It always gets worse. Now, I was talking with Scott here. What do you got, 2 days, Scott, or 2 days clean? And, yeah. Welcome, Scott. And Anthony, what do you got, 10 days? Welcome, Anthony, 10 days clean. And John, did I remember 47 days? It actually works. Once in a while, the old man gets lucky and he remembers something, So, I wanted to try to manage this addiction. And I really couldn't, bad as it was, I couldn't imagine life without something, all right? Maybe, I used to think, well, I can't keep shooting heroin because, it's not safe, and, friends of mine are getting AIDS, and they didn't even know what AIDS was back then. They used to call it things like parasitic infections of the lungs. Friends of mine were dying in the late 70s, late 70s, early 80s. They didn't even really know what AIDS was, right? And I was going down to shooting galleries in the Lower East Side of New York. Does anybody know anybody know what the Lower East Side of New York is? If you get a chance, go on YouTube and just punch in Lower East Side New York 70s or Lower East Side New York 80s. And it looks like France in World War II, bombed out like buildings. I mean, it was nothing but junkies for blocks and blocks. The cops didn't even go in that area. It was insane over there. And that's where I spent a lot of my time from 1970 to 1977 using. And you want to hear a really weird blessing? I just got done spending a year and a half almost back in New Jersey. My mom got sick. And my wife and I had to make a decision. I was going back and forth, and we made a decision that we needed to pack the car and leave our home and drive to New Jersey and take care of her. And through that experience, and I won't get into it right now, it was difficult, but it was an incredible experience taking care of my mom till she passed, okay? She died at 94 years old a year ago, May 4th. And as a result, when we were still in Jersey living with a friend, I got to speak at an NA meeting on Avenue D and 9th Street in the Lower East Side. This meeting was across the street from my connections pad. 40 years before that, I was strung out, dope fiend, heroin addict, copping heroin in the Lower East Side across the street from this NA meeting. I mean, I was speaking on the 12th step, and I welled up with such emotion that I couldn't hardly even talk. I couldn't believe that God, NA, a higher power, had blessed me with this chance to experience being on the street that I lived hell on for 7 years and talking about recovery and the miracle of recovery and what's happened in this addict's life. So everything of value in this addict's life is because of not using drugs on a daily basis and finding ongoing recovery in the Narcotics Anonymous program. And when I say everything of value, I mean my sanity, my integrity, my freedom, my teeth, everything. Place I live in, the woman I sleep with, everything of value. My relationships with my family, my relationships with other human beings, everything of value is because of finding ongoing recovery in the Narcotics Anonymous program. So, yeah, it's true. Now, the illusion that it refers to in the basic text of every addict is that somehow we can manage our own lives. That illusion was killing me for years. That illusion is what brought me to these rooms. That illusion will take me back out of here, no matter how long I'm clean, if I don't recover on a daily basis. That's something that NA gives me a chance to do. If you read the introduction in the basic text, it says a lot of good stuff there. It says that we come to Narcotics Anonymous by various means. And our common denominator, everybody in this room, no matter what you look like, how old you are, what you have and don't have, if you're in this room and you're an addict, that our common denominator is that we fail to come to terms with our addiction. And what the Narcotics Anonymous program has given me is a way to do that on a daily basis. It's a way to come to terms with my addiction, the thing between my ears, the mental illness, I call it, that I suffer from. I mean, think about the insanity that's based in addiction. There's a lot of people that stood up in their first year. Now, I'm sure this isn't the first time you're probably trying to get clean. I mean, it might be, but if you're like me, I tried over and over and over again. And think about what your disease has done to you in your life. The pain that it's caused not only you, but maybe your family or a loved one, a girlfriend, or maybe kids, right? Or maybe you were incarcerated. My buddy Bobby F. in San Diego, my homeboy, he just got out 4 years ago he did 19 years on a third strike in California. 19 years. When he came out, he looked at a cell phone, he couldn't believe it. He was like in shock. He said, "What the hell is that?" Cell phone, Bobby. 19 years because of addiction. Nothing more, nothing less, because he never found a way out from the horrors of addiction. So everything of value is in my life. So think about the pain that your addiction created for you and other people in your life. Remember the pain, guys? Think about it. Remember the week before you got clean? Remember that? And your mind continues to tell you that, come on, man, just one more. You know, you're not going to go to jail this time. Come on, man, just one more. You're not going to lose your kids. You're not going to lose your job. You could just use on the weekends. Like normal people. All right, I can't shoot heroin, but I just drink alcohol. Like all the beer commercials on all the football games. They look like they're all having fun. Come on, man, just one more. New people that stood up in your first year, expect that to happen. Expect your mind. That's the insanity. How dare my mind, after the pain that I experienced from active addiction, tell me, come on, Ronnie, just one more. Come on, man, just one more. Well, now it doesn't say to me, oh, stick a needle in your arm, Ron. It knows better. You know, that, like the gentleman last night who shared about your disease outside doing push-ups. My disease is in every meeting I go to. My disease is in me. Hears everything I hear. Knows that, well, I can't tell him to stick a needle in his arm, but I can tell him to take that. Take that. Nobody will know it's gone. Come on, man, take that. You know? Or you don't have to say the truth. Just, you know, you don't have to, just tell him that, you know, not hurting anybody. Just tell a lie, you know, or, oh, God, I've been with my wife a long time, and, you know, I could probably, whatever the illusion is that addiction presents in my mind, it all eventually leads to active using for me. So I have to be vigilant about this thing in my mind, this insanity that I still live with today. You know, there's nothing that I really can think about that I dream about, have dreams, all right, from 35 years ago. There's no woman that I dream about. There's no job that I dream about. There's nothing. But I still dream about using drugs. And that bothers me sometimes. You know, I'm almost 35 years clean. I'm an active NA member. I'm not one of these guys that's on the fence. I'm not a spectator. I'm involved in this like my life depends on it. You know why? Because my life depends on it. That's why. That's why I go to meetings. That's why I have a sponsor I talk to every week. That's why I read the basic text every morning when I do my Just for Today. Because my life depends on finding recovery. I can't manage my own life. This disease lives in my brain. The biggest asset my higher power has ever given me as a human being is my mind. That's the biggest asset I have. And it's my worst enemy, all rolled into one. And I never know who's showing up, minute to minute, day to day. So when our literature says we keep what we have only with vigilance, I got to keep a watchful eye on me. You know, I was talking to somebody on the way up here, and you know, he said, I gamble once in a while and stuff. You gamble? I said, no, I don't gamble, man. You kidding me? Gamble? No. Man, there's all kinds of Indian casinos in San Diego. I don't trust myself. I know what my mind will say. Well, you can go in and just play a little blackjack, take $50, no big deal. You know, you can afford that. What I learned through the steps of recovery is that once I open the door to a defect of character, I can never lock it again. It's just like my addiction. The door to active addiction will always be there, hopefully closed, one day at a time. NA gives me the ability to keep the door closed, right? Go to meetings, we work steps, we have a spiritual awakening, we have a sponsor that we finally have somebody we can trust. I mean, when I came here, I couldn't trust anybody. I couldn't trust me. So how the hell was I going to trust you? I knew what I had done to people, especially what I had done to myself. So I come here in San Diego in 1981. The program is small, man. There's 10 meetings a week. I come in, I'm on methadone. I'm thinking about taking my own life. Things are getting bad inside of me. I don't have the heart anymore. I don't have the heart. At 31 years old, I've lost the heart to endure the pain of addiction. So right away, my mind, I don't know about your mind, but usually the first thought is easier, softer way. How can I get out of this? Well, I'll take my own life. So somebody mentions, listen, why don't you go to an NA meeting? There's one like blocks from your house. Just try it. So I go to an NA meeting for the first time, and I'm altered. I'm on methadone, so I'm high. I may not be gouged, but I'm high, right? So I go to the meeting, and I'm listening to these people talk, and I'm getting really depressed. I'm thinking, wait a minute, these people can't help me. They're sitting around drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, talking about their problems. I'm ready to kill myself. This is in my mind, right? I ain't telling anybody. I'm ready to die because I can't take this anymore. How are these people going to help me? But there was just enough inside of me that wanted to live. There was just enough inside of me that had nowhere else to go. Nowhere. I had tried everything. Nothing worked. I mean, it might work temporarily, maybe her might last for a week, 2 weeks, right? Or a job, if I just get that good job. You ever tell yourself that? My problem is I need a job. I'm always, so if I just get that good job. It's part of the illusion of addiction, right? Or if I just get her, her. And sometimes we get her, and you can ask my best friend Eddie, and her will make you cuckoo, okay? And wish you never saw her, okay? So it's all these illusions of manageability. I can't think my way out of this, man. I have to practice a program of recovery on a daily basis to be able to recover from this madness that is in my mind. So I'm going to meetings, but I'm not staying clean. I'm having a very difficult time, but I want this. I had a desire. The traditions say the only requirement for membership is a desire to stay clean. And nobody can measure desire. And if I'm going to NA meetings gouged, I'm still going to NA meetings, so I must have a desire. Why would I be there if I didn't have a desire? And for 2 years of going to meetings, and 2 years of going in and out of recovery houses in San Diego, in and out of detoxes. In those days, we had 30-day spin-dry detoxes where you could get clean and then, go back to whatever. For 2 years, I was a perpetual newcomer. And nobody ever threw me out. Nobody ever said, hey, Ron, you can't come back here no more. You can't be high in a meeting. You can't nod out in a meeting. Nobody. Everybody said, Ronnie, keep coming back. And then the miracle happened for me. What happened for me is that I had relapsed again in the summer of 1982. I got 90 days clean. I mean, that was unbelievable. In that 2-year period, I finally got 90 days in a row clean. And the first thing my head said after I got a token is, see, and they said you couldn't do this. See? You're feeling good, you're healthy, you got 90 days. Why don't you call that dude you were in treatment with, man, and see if he still got the bag? And I picked up my first fix again, and I was off to the races, and I couldn't stop in the summer of 1982. And in the fall of 1982, my parents had helped me buy a house in San Diego. They had no idea I was strung out. I moved from New Jersey to San Diego in 1977. My P.O. was a stand-up great guy, and I had family in San Diego, and they said, look, if you let him come out here with us, he can live with us, he can get a new job, he can change his life. And this guy went for it. And I thought, my God, I'm getting the biggest break of my life. This guy petitioned the courts, the judge, and got them to transfer me from San Diego to La Mesa, California. And I thought to myself, my God, man, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. I'm away from New Jersey, the Lower East Side, all my friends, all the insanity of using. I'm going to California where they probably don't even use heroin, you'd see them surfing and shit on television. I remember sitting in the bars watching football games in January. It'd be snowing outside. We'd be in the bar, watching the game loaded and stuff. And you'd see them like at, Oakland Raiders or, girls that have like halter tops on or whatever, San Diego, California. And I'd say, wow, that is beautiful. I'd love to live in California. And now I get my shot. So everything I owned in life, I packed into a 1975 Datsun B210 hatchback. Everything I owned in life fit in that car. And I took off and I drove away from my parents. And my mom and dad were in the driveway when I left. And I didn't know this until I had 2 years clean. But they were waving goodbye, and my father said to my mother, "That's the last time we're going to see our son alive." They knew what they had been through with me. I lived with my parents my whole life. My parents thought that when I say whole life, up to 27 years old. I moved out one time for 2 months and got so sick, I wound up in a hospital with pneumonia and a staph infection from shooting dope, and they begged me to come home. They thought that if they could keep me at home, that somehow I would survive my addiction. You know, they loved me. They were trying to help me any way that they knew how to help me. And so when I left, my father thought that was it, that he'd never see me alive again. And he was almost right. Because after I transferred to California and wanted this new life, it's like a fish out of water. I want to do good. I want to not get high, but I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel right inside my skin. I've got this mind that talks over and over. Come on, man, one more. You can drink. Come on, you never had a problem with alcohol. Over and over and over. So finally, I'm in California now, but I figure, I could drink, man. I really need to drink. I need something to take the edge off, right? So I start drinking, and then, I don't know what you like, but all of a sudden, I'm in Logan Heights with a guy named Bosco shooting heroin, And he's got this big tattoo on his stomach, with this Mexican guy in a sombrero holding a shotgun, and it's pointed to me, and I'm like, what the hell happened? What the hell happened? I was coming 3,000 miles to start my life over again, and here it is 3 months later, I'm doing the same crap again. Can anybody relate to that? Yeah. It's insanity. It's insane. I've heard doctors and stuff say, well, insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. And then I come to Narcotics Anonymous and I hear, no, our insanity is doing the same thing over again, knowing exactly what's going to happen and doing it anyhow. That's our insanity. Anybody identify with that? Right? So we're all shooting dope at my house. My parents helped me buy this house. They had no idea. I had just gotten $1,700 because I staged a fake robbery at my house. I had homeowners insurance, and so I had my friends clean out the whole house. Take whatever you want, right? Pawn shop, my friends, right? Everything gone. I just had a couple of chairs and a little table. No, everything was gone. Television, stereo, everything. And so I break the back glass on the back window, the door, like someone actually broke in, because I know I have to get a police report. The only way I can file this if I get a police report. So I faked this little, robbery thing, and I called the cops, and I'm like a little pinned. I just got high, not real high, just enough to not be sick, right? And so he comes over, the cop, and we sit down at this table with 2 wooden chairs that's left, and he's looking at me, and he knows I'm pinned. He knows I'm using. And I'm telling him, he goes, you know what they told? I go, yeah, I have a list right here, I wrote everything down. He goes, really? You wrote everything down? Yeah, I wrote everything down, and I think I have the prices, how much? Oh, really? So this cop is looking at me like, this guy's so full of crap, I can't believe it. But he's got to do it. It's his job. So anyhow, he makes out a police report. I get $1,700 cash. It's party time. So me, Bobby, who did 19 years, his brother Paul, and Paul's wife Debbie are all shooting dope at my house. Everybody leaves, and I go to bed, and I wake up like an hour later, and I got this pain going down my arm, man. It's like every time, like when you have a toothache, and every time your heart beats, your tooth hurts. Well, this was happening down my arm, and I couldn't hardly breathe, and I was burned up with like fever, and I thought, oh man, I must have the flu. So I get up, go into the kitchen where I had a bottle of gin, pour myself a big, Addict NyQuil, big shot of gin, right? And I figured it'll relax me, it'll help me sleep, and I go back to bed, and within an hour, I know I'm dying. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've never felt like that. I've got such massive pain going down my arm, down my chest. I can't breathe. I'm burned up. The ambulance comes, picks me up, takes me to the hospital. Long story short, I shot a staph infection into my heart. and I got this disease called endocarditis, or the heart valves. Now I'm in a hospital. I've got septicemia of the blood system. I've got 105 fever. I've got emboli traveling through my entire body from this staph infection. I've got kidneys are shut down. I have hepatitis C, and in 1982, they didn't even know what that was. They just said, well, you non-A, non-B, some other kind of hepatitis, right? I've got osteomyelitis. My rib cage is being eaten away from this staph infection. I'm a sick dude, and I'm on machines. They got me hooked up to all these machines, and they're hitting me with Demerol every 3 hours, and all that's doing is keeping me well. All right, it's not really helping a lot with the pain. So then they're giving me Vistarol, which is another drug that slows down your breathing. So now I'm messed up. I'm on machines. 2 weeks go by. I'm starting to come around. I'm in and out of being coherent, and the doctor has a long talk with me. He says, well, I see your history here, heroin addict, this and that, and this is what you have, and da-da-da-da, and you're going to have to stay on these machines for 2 months in the hospital. We're hopefully going to get this under control. And if not, your heart is going to blow out. Your valve is going to blow out. And if you ever use a needle again, you're going to blow out your heart valve. Do you understand that, Ron? I go, yeah, I understand, you know. And my mind is racing because I'm thinking, I'm dying, man. I'm in a hospital. This guy's telling me I'm dying, and I'm scared to death. I need a fix. You know, that's the first thing in my mind is that this is... You know, what safer place could you use in a hospital, right? I mean, really, the nurses are out there. You got the little button, nurse, you know, press the button. Something happens, they'll come in with those things, boom, hit you with those paddle things, right? You know, it's a hospital. Safe, right? So as soon as the doctor walks out, I got $1,700. Well, less now because we were shooting dough. But I got like maybe $1,500 left in cash on me. So I know where I can cop. My buddy Bobby's dope sick, man. Hey, boom, boom, boom. Hey, Holmes, what are you doing? Yeah, where are you at? I'm in the hospital. Yeah, up on the 8th floor. Well, you sick? Yeah, you want to get well? Yeah, bring me a couple balloons of dope and an outfit, and I'll get you well. And so it's on. It's on, man. Now the obsession, one more, just one more. The insanity, just one more. The insanity of rationalization and justification. Anybody relate to that? What your mind tells you after what it's done to you? And it still can try to rationalize and justify just one more? I don't care what the reason is. Look what it's done to us. It says in the basic text in the introduction, we are in a hopeless dilemma. The solution to which is spiritual in nature. That's why this book will deal with spiritual matters. It says that in the introduction. I was in a hopeless dilemma. I couldn't stop using. It doesn't matter if I'm going to die. Anyhow, I'm shooting dope every day, and now NA hears that, oh, Ronnie G's sick. You better go see him before he dies. So now all these NA people are coming up to my room. So now I'm trying to get my connection into the room, and all these NA people are coming up. I don't want them there. And they're like doing like, well, you know, pray for the willingness, Ron, to do whatever you have to do to get clean. I'm, yeah. Could you leave now? Like trying to do their best. Help me. So this madness goes on, and then one day the door opens up, and my mother and my sister Diane, who drove 3,000 miles from New Jersey, because the doctors told him, look, we don't know if he's going to make it. You know, we're going to put him on these machines for 8 weeks, but we don't know if he's going to survive this. You might want to come see him. So my mother and my sister packed the car, put the dog in there, and drove. That's the kind of family I come from. Drove to be with me. But all I see is my mother and my sister, and I'm thinking, how am I going to use now? They're here, right? So now the mind, remember the mind? Remember what our mind used to do? How do I get the next one? What do I have to do? What do I have to say? The insanity of addiction. We all know it, right? We lived it over and over and over again. And I'll never forget one day, Bobby's in the lounge downstairs because he would always call upstairs to make sure the NA people weren't there, you know. Hey, Ronnie, it's Bobby. We used to call him Mumbles because it was hard to understand him. That's his nickname was Mumble. Hey, Ronnie, it's Bobby. Those NA people up there? I go, no, but my mother's here and my sister's here. What? I go, yeah, they're here from New Jersey. My mother like, who are you talking to? I mean, I'm hooked up to machines, right? Who are you, what are you, the president or something? Who are you talking to? No, Ma, it's a friend from NA, and I'm talking to Bobby, and he goes, well, look, man, I got 2 balloons and an outfit, but I'm down here. I'm not coming up there. So you got to come down and get it or I'm leaving. Remember those days? Remember those days? When the only thing you could think of was getting the next one. The insanity of addiction. So I'm thinking, I can't let him leave. So I'm taking out the IV and I'm putting it away just like the nurses do, taking the breathing machine off, heart monitor. My mother goes, what are you doing? I go, Ma, they forgot my medication. Medication? I go, yeah, they're supposed to give me medication. I got to get my medication. And you know how we get we feel if we get loud enough, they'll back off. Like a pit bull. Figure you're loud enough, they'll back off. So they're backing off, and now I got this smock on. My ass is hanging out the back. I haven't showered in 4 weeks. I look like Don King. My hair is sticking up like this, right? But I got to get what I got to get. So I'm look like Fred Sanford. Remember Fred Sanford? I'm walking like Fred Sanford, because when you have endocarditis, all your joints lock up. It's like cotton fever to the 20th degree. I mean, you can't hardly move. You're so locked up. Anyhow, I got to get downstairs. So I go right past the nurse's station. My mother and sister are like, we're gonna call the doctor. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. I gotta go. So I get on the elevator, take it to I'm on the 8th floor, man. I take it down to the 1st floor, get off. Bobby's there nodding, Holmes, give it up, Holmes. He gives me 2 balloons. I throw them in my mouth. Take the spoon in the outfit. I have no pocket, so I stick it under my arm, and now it's get to the room. All I can think is one more. Get to the room. I come up to the 8th floor. The doors open up. There's my mother, there's my sister Diane, and there's 3 nurses, and they sound like cackling hens because they're all talking at the same time, and all I can think is get to the room. Where'd you go? What are you doing? We're going to call the doctor. Where'd you go? What are you? Yeah. And I'm shuffling off into the room. I go into the bathroom and I close the door and lock it. Open the door, what are you doing? Open the door. And I'm thinking, I gotta get high, man. So I take these balloons out, right? I put them in the cooker, and I look, and there's no sink. The sink is on the outside in my room. And I got this massive infection of the heart, and I'm thinking, toilet, what the hell, right? So I draw up the toilet water, and I'm thinking, here's the rationalization. Well, I'm going to cook it. I'm going to sterilize it. I'm going to boil it. It's not like I'm putting something in my body that's not sterilized. Now, the insanity of addiction, you're laughing. We can't sex our way through it. We can't work our way through it. We can't educate our way through it. It's a dilemma. It's a hopeless dilemma that lives in my mind. Long story short, the day came when I was given the Spirit of God. I woke up one morning and looked around and saw myself as I really was. And I consider it, I was given the Spirit of God, gift of desperation. And I broke down crying, uncontrollable, sobbing, because I saw myself as I really was. I saw this hopeless dilemma. I knew I couldn't go on like this. And the nurses came in, and I couldn't stop crying, man. It was like a nervous breakdown. And I told them, hey, man, you know what? You guys are right. Because they thought I was using. They're like, we're not giving you that much medication. Why are you nodding out? Well, you're giving me Demerol, and it's strong, and I'm talking out of the side of my neck, right? We're going to test your urine to see if there's heroin in your urine. I don't care. Bobby, bring me some urine. I'm calling him up, and he wants to stay well. So he goes to his cousin's house, and she was pregnant. She pees in these baby food jars. He brings them up there like I'm getting over on somebody, right? Here, I'm dying. I'm killing myself, and I'm fooling you. Look at me. How slick am I? The insanity of addiction. the horrors of addiction. It's fun. You know, it's nice to be able to laugh about that, but I was pitiful, man. I was pitiful. I didn't even care about my own life. I didn't even have the power to make a decision to save my own life. But that gift of desperation, that Spirit of God that I saw myself as I really was, and I said, I can't do this no more. And I told the nurses, have been shooting heroin every day since I've been here. I need help. I need help. Tell the doctor I need help. I don't want to live like this anymore. And so luckily, because I was in the hospital, I was able to kick in that hospital. They detoxed me in that hospital. And I'll never forget, Thanksgiving Day, 1982, they disconnected me from the machines and let my mother and sister take me for 4 hours. I had to be back in 4 hours and back on the machines. I went to my neighbor's house for Thanksgiving dinner. And I came back, and they hooked me back up to the machines, and they said, here's your meds. They came in, they were giving me lightweight shit, you know what I mean, to help me kick. I said, I don't want it. They go, you don't want it? I said, no. I said, this is Thanksgiving. I think this is a good day to get clean. I'm going to make this my clean day. And that was November 25th, 1982. And because of the Narcotics Anonymous program and the gift of sanity, I've been able to stay clean one day at a time since then. So, yeah. So that's all because of NA. I love when people clap because it's not me. It's the power of Narcotics Anonymous working in a hopeless, helpless junkie's life. You know, I came back to San Diego after spending 8 months in a recovery house. The counselors told my mother when I was in that hospital, the guys next door in the detox that I used to go into for 30 days at a clip, they said, look, your son can't be on the street for 5 minutes. You got to get his clothes packed. When he leaves this hospital, put him in the car and drive him 2.5 hours north to Pasadena. He's got to go to this specific recovery house or he's going to die. And my mother and sister finally bought it. You know, they kept making excuses, but they finally bought it. So I got out of that hospital. Everything was packed. I got in my sister's car. They drove to Pasadena, and I went into a recovery house and spent my first 8 months in that recovery house. I worked up to my 8th step. I went to 3 meetings a day. I got a sponsor, and I started to come to terms with my addiction. And as a result of the 12 steps, I had a spiritual awakening, and I found freedom from active addiction. And the spiritual awakening that I always wondered, what's it going to be like to have a spiritual awakening? Am I going to get religious? Am I going to get like really nice, you know, a nice guy? I mean, what's going to happen through a spiritual awakening? And it was very, very subtle and very profound. Things like realizing and accepting that I will never, ever be able to successfully use drugs again. And accept that. And accept the fact that my life depends on not using. And everything that goes along with the value that I talked about. And one of the big things that hit me was that circumstances and conditions in my life have nothing to do with my recovery. And if I allow circumstances and conditions in my life to have something to do with my recovery, I get sick. And I start to separate myself from this process. So that means a girl, that means a job, that means health conditions, that means a family that might be pressuring you. All those circumstances and conditions can't get in the way of me going to meetings. Can't get in the way of me working steps. Can't get in the way of me having a sponsor. Can't get in the way of me reading our literature. I read our literature every day. I start my day off in prayer and meditation. I read the Just for Today 3 times. I look at the book. Where does it tell me in the basic text it refers to? I read a page. So now I'm not only doing the Just for Today, taking me another 30 seconds to fill my spirit with words from the basic text. If it doesn't have a basic text page, I just pick one out. And I'm staying in the literature. You see, I know me. That's why I don't gamble. I know who I am. I know what I suffer from. And I know I can't trust my own thinking. It says in the basic text that we are the masters of self-deception. Nobody lies to us like us. So I have to have other people I can talk to and bounce things off of. And luckily, I've been able to do that this long, and my hope is that I'll die clean. My hope is that I'll never have to use again. Now, a lot's going against me. You know, I got a lot of physical things going on, pain things going on. I might need a surgical operation on my neck, C4, C5. I got a spinal cord compression, which is affecting my left and right arm. I've got lower back issues, so I don't know what's going to happen to me. But if I have to take something in a hospital because of an operation, my hope is that you guys will be there with me. My hope is that a higher power will relieve me of the obsession, and my hope is that I'll be able to get off that stuff sooner than later, because I'm an addict, and I'm not like a normal person. A normal person takes pain medicine, 100% of that pain medicine goes to the pain. A guy like me takes pain medicine, 80% of it goes to my pleasure center, and 20% goes to my pain. So that's not a solution for me. But I got to trust my God, and I got to trust you guys, and I got to trust the program of Narcotics Anonymous. Or what's the point of all this? Right? What's the point? Oh, you can stay clean, but if you got to have an operation, well, all bets are off. We keep what we have only with vigilance. So I have to keep a watchful eye on what I think, how I feel, and how I act. And practicing a program of recovery because my life depends on it gives me that. So I'm a very lucky guy. And I don't know, how long have I talked? Am I done or? Done? Okay, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. No, well, I'm not that done. I'm done.